don't need, or if there is no revenue, do not maintain, take them offline, right? We had a lot of legacy environments where, it was not catering to the current market needs or the student needs or the curriculums of the universities or schools, but we were still maintaining them. Those were taken away, right? So it brings down the overall operational cost well as other overheads. Identify data silos and centralize it, right? It will help with the cost and will optimize the operation, reduce the overhead significantly. We also looked at reduced Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So reducing the complexity, because like I said earlier, we have many products. If we just talk about a number, we have close to 3,000 plus products, right, where we are looking at bringing into a single platform on a prioritized manner, right? This is happening as we speak. And also security should be a key aspect, and you need to think through and invest on this. If you're serious about digital transformation, there are no shortcuts for security. You are dealing with customers, learners, and their personal data. Being an education company, we are also holding for a great amount of information related to students, learners, teachers from various institutes. So for us, security is a key area where we heavily invest on. And the other factor where we looked at is that investment on people to enable the digital strategy, digital skills, upskill for the new stack, whether it is private cloud or public cloud, bring in leaders who have done it to accelerate the digital journey. Because what happens is that when you come up with a strategy, like I said earlier, out of the three main components, people is going to be one of the key aspects. End of the day, what makes the digital transformation enable primarily is by the people. So you need to have the right talent with you. Maybe it might result a refresh. You might have to introduce new talent. People might have to play different roles. It's a change. Digital transformation is all about a change. It's a mindset, right? You should be able to accept the change, right? The willingness to change is a key factor for you to be successful. Looking at the ROI in terms of cost to hire, right? Where is the right talent for the best rates? But we need to be cautious, right? For example, we'll say in terms of technology skills, you get great technical skills. We'll say, for example, somewhere like just we take random a place, we'll say you get people in Finland, right? But if your customer base is primarily in the US, there is no point you're having a sales team in Finland, right? You may have your technology team in Finland, but you need to have your sales team in the US itself where the sales or the business is happening. So sometimes organizations does not look at that. So we need to be really careful when you're looking at the people aspect. When you say, it's the cost, you also need to ensure that your decisions based on cost are the right ones. Right? So that is the other aspect. And in terms of for certain businesses, public clouds will work. Certain businesses, private clouds will work in terms of the technology future. So it's a decision you need to make based on the volume where you have, whether you want to go cloud-based or whether you want to go into a data center aspect of it. Because if you have an environment where, if you have a customer base where, throughout you don't have the same amount of customers hitting your business, then you need to think saying, whether you want to invest on a private cloud or whether it should be a public cloud. Because if the advantage you have for the public cloud is you can scale up and scale down as you wish, right? And if you really look back on the COVID-19, right, over the last 4 months, it has seriously accelerated digital transformation for organizations. And if you look at Pearson, we have seen many students and learners are looking at enrolling for more online learning experience, and organizations who are part of the digital transformation are benefiting. So we are seeing that, right? And if you see generally, homeschooling is very common in the US. And what we have seen during COVID is that, other parts of the world, Europe, for UK, from Europe to Australia to other parts of the world, homeschooling has really increased, and we see lots of students and learners coming on board for online education. And if you really see that organizations also needs to adapt during crisis situations, where it's not about having a platform where anybody can come on board. You also needs to be getting into the crisis, right? If you really notice, almost like all the organizations, from, if I just name, from Red Hat to various platforms where they have professional certifications or academic qualifications, the content was available for free for people to come on board, right? So those kind of opportunities which were used also has helped organization to get into capture certain market share in terms of how they want to expand their digital business. And with that, I would say going digital is not an optional thing for an organization. Get on board, but you need to have the right strategy, as it's a change and you have to plan for it. So with that, I will just say thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions where you want to ask from my end on anything which I have shared or anything else outside of this topic. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Roshan, for sharing those very insightful thoughts. I think I like what you said in terms of digital transformation. It's important, and it's something that every organization should really consider. And so at this time, we are opening the floor for questions. So if you do have any questions, we invite you to please submit them in our chat box. And so I will just jump right in and ask, because I see one question has already come in. So maybe I'll just take that question before I go with mine. Joris is asking, could organizations benefit from open source? And Roshan, would you be able to respond to that one?
Did I
Roshan?
you?
Roshan, we have a question for you from Joris. He's asking, could organizations benefit from open source? All right, I think Roshan has a problem in the connection today. There's a lot of technical issue happening around. So let's go to the next speaker, Khalid. We can invite the next speaker so we can have the questions ready for Roshan once he joined back. We can push on the questions once he joined. Yeah.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. All right. So thanks, Roshan, for sharing his insights about the importance of digital transformation. And thank you, participants, for your questions. And we please do ask your questions. The main importance of having this session is to answer your questions from the speakers today. So speakers for discussing the JCI online resources and the importance of digital transformation for organizations. So let me introduce our next speaker for today. Our next speaker is not a new face for JCI. She has a Master of Laws degree and a Master degree in Public Affairs, and she is the Chief Digital Officer at Euler Hermes France Alliance Group. At Euler Hermes, Sophie drives the digital transformation strategy, which includes building and managing new digital products and partnering with fintechs and e-commerce players to reinvent trade finance. During her tenure, she was awarded the Most Transforming 2018 Chief Digital Officer by Journal du Net, and Euler Hermes France was awarded Best 2018 Internal Information Transformation Program by iAgis, the iAssurance, and the Best 2019 Innovation Strategy by Grand Prix Du Marketing B2B. Sophie became the local president of JCI Paris in 2012 and national president of JCI France in 2018. She is fluent in French and English. So, ladies and gentlemen, please let me have the privilege to welcome our next speaker of today's session, Sophie Mahouhemi.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to testify today about my two roles, I would say, because of course I will share my experience as a Chief Digital Officer at Euler Hermes, which is an insurance company specialized in B2B, and it's an Allianz Group subsidiary. So I'm based in Paris, but I'm also have been a JCI member for more than 10 years. So what I've learned in my professional career is also very interesting in what we are investigating right now as NGO at JCI. So I'll try to also identify what could be duplicate in our NGO world, I would say. So first of all, I think it was pretty much the same about the introduction. I wanted to have what Roshan was just saying is about what is digital transformation, because when I'm talking about it, sometimes the definition is not very clear for the people, because some people are only talking about social networks. They are talking about new habits like e-commerce. They are talking about this kind of thing about technology, artificial intelligence. Yes, it's all of that. It's not a part of it. I mean, it's not only social network. Talking about digital is having this global overview about what new technologies can bring to your organization, your company, your NGO. And we are talking in another way about digital transformation, where we are saying it's the fourth industrial revolution. So it gives you a better overview of the emergency of this transformation. What is it for? I mean, changing is for a reason, right? So it's also important to ask why we need to change. And the why is to really think about how we can leverage these new technologies to strengthen our position on the market. So it's exactly the same when we are talking about your company or as JCI, because JCI has also to clearly define its position on an NGO market, I would say, and to attract new talents. But also, how do you leverage technologies to differentiate from competition on the markets? So basically, this is to think about your strategy and to think about where do you come from, where you need to go, and how. And the how is how you leverage new technologies right now. So two consequences of this definition of digital transformation. The first one is I'm making a difference between what is disruption and what is evolution. Because usually when people are talking about digital transformation, they are saying that we're going to disrupt the business model. It might be true, but it's not only the case. I mean, talking about transformation is how to think about how you take your DNA, understand where you're coming from, and build on what is existing right now. And this makes things a little bit more tricky because sometimes it's easier to start from scratch. When you take startups as an example, of course, they are starting from scratch. And sometimes it's easier to build new legacy IT system, to create a new offer, and so on. When you are talking about digital transformation from an existing organization, of course, things are a bit more tricky because you need to build on what is existing. And this is where I'd rather talk about evolution. The second aspect of it is the importance of cultural change. We are talking about new technologies, and for sure, it's coming with different aspects in terms of your IT infrastructure, of hard skills, but it's also coming with soft skills and how do you onboard people in this transformation. So it's much more than only the adoption of technology, which is the first part of course, but it's also to question ourselves, how do we truly transform, and how do we unify people, organization, processes, and it's not small challenge for sure. So just to give you the perfect recipe of digital transformation, and this is basically what also inspired me in my as a CDO. It's absolutely crucial that to go through this very challenging process of digital transformation, you need to have a vision, and you need to have a top management in your company which is truly convinced and which is and who is strongly involved in this process, because sometimes it's challenging, and you need to you have to face difficulties. So if the top management is not completely onboarded, it's not working. It's not working, or at least you are not tackling the right challenges. You can deal with them, but not all of them, not all of the challenges I've been mentioning. So first of it, vision and top management onboarding. The second one is to have a good training policy. I would put it this way, because you need to not only have the top management onboarded, but also you need to onboard afterwards all employees in your organization. And in large corporates such as Allianz or Eulermus, which is a brand of it, so we are gathering 6,000 employees throughout the world with different backgrounds, different profiles, different nationalities. And for sure, people sometimes are reluctant to new technologies. So you also need to make sure that you have the right change management program and training policy coming along with different level, I would say, because if you are only doing change cultural aspect of it, some people would not be interested. But in another way, if you are only running very technology, I would say, training, technology-oriented training, such as coding and this kind of thing, some people would not feel they are part of it. So it's important also to think about how you balance your training policy. The three pillars of a digital transformation is also, of course, we are talking about technology, so you need to make sure that business and IT are aligned and they are partners. Sometimes, because some of you might work in large organization, it's not always the case. I mean, when we think about how do you leverage technologies in your business model, it's absolutely key. The fourth one is to adapt your decision-making process, because for sure, and this is, we'll see that the new generation are expected faster decision-making process. So you need to review your governance for sure. And you need to make sure that people feel they are part of it. People are can count on the decision, and they are not always waiting for top management decision N+3, 4, 5 in large corporates. So people take full responsibility of what they are doing. This is the model we are also taking as an example from startups, but for sure in my position, I'm always benchmarking what startups are doing in terms of technology, organization, this kind of thing. And of course, we need to get inspiration. It's not duplicable as it is in startups for reason I've mentioned before. As you are taking what is existing right now, you need to adapt the model. But still, this is a very good way to adapt also your governance. The two last pillars, I would say, the one is to prioritize. Because of course, when you're talking about digital transformation, the definition I've done is very large. So you cannot tackle all issues at the same time. And it's tempting because it's very interesting as well, for sure. But then, of course, even large corporates need to prioritize. Otherwise, you get lost in different projects running in parallel, and it's time consuming, it's cost consuming, and it's for sure not efficient. So if you want to have projects that deliver quickly, you need to prioritize. You also might need to prioritize on technologies in itself. I mean, which one are really relevant for your business model? We are talking about artificial intelligence. We are talking about blockchain. We are talking about, well, different tools, I would say, I will put it this way, or different languages as well. For sure, you need to prioritize and to define the most relevant projects linked to your strategy. And the last one, and not a small one, is the data. The place of data into your organization and how you transform your organization into being a data-driven organization. That means, like, and Roshan was mentioning it, it means that you need to know where your data are, how do you use them, how do you share them as well. We are talking about this kind of business intelligence tool, for example, or data visualization tools that can help you to better automatize reports, share the reports, and support also the decision-making process I was mentioning before. So just in a nutshell, for perfect recipe for digital transformation, whatever your organization, it's vision and involvement for top management, a good training and well-balanced training policy, connect business and IT, adapt your decision-making process and your governance, prioritize, and work on data. Having said that, what I've done at Jules Hermes, just to in a few words to let maybe give you more concrete terms of what I'm saying, is I've been appointed digital officer 3.5 years ago, and I started from scratch. I'm working in a more, I would say, traditional insurance company, and especially in B2B, things are going slower. However, we see that the B2B world is changing also very fast, and is also duplicating what B2C in terms of e-commerce has put in place. And the COVID situation has only accelerated this trend for sure, because we see many companies who are running into insolvencies because they were not well equipped, I would say, for the distribution channel. And those who have had an e-commerce strategy already in place, they are, I'm not saying that they will not suffer from this economic situation, but they would be stronger for sure. So this is something we need to analyze as well. And this is what we are trying to support, because as a B2B insurance company, we are trying to leverage technology and sell insurance through API, and to integrate our services directly into an online customer journey. So for example, you are on an e-commerce platform, but you are a B2B customer and you want payment delays. And then we make sure through our APIs that we ensure these payment delays. That sounds pretty easy, say it this way, but behind the scene, it's much more complex, because it means like your commercial forces need to understand what an API is beyond the insurance product. So we are talking about upskilling, or sometimes we're even talking about reskilling, like meaning like you really need to change the job you've been doing for a few years. So commercial forces, we need to, as we are having this huge change, it's a new word. I mean, the e-commerce word is a new word for insurance, for B2B insurance. So you need also to understand, to make sure you have the right infrastructure, you have the cloud strategy behind, you are also connected your API to your legacy system, and so on. So you could feel like it's not an easy task, but it's really interesting. So what it means at JCI, if I duplicate what I've just said to our JC environment, for sure we see that NGO is really impacted as well. And I would say to make the parallel with the B2B world, it's the same. I mean, NGO, of course, do not have the same budget and resources, and probably some of them haven't realized very quickly that this major change in society is also very crucial for them, for their future in itself, for their organization. And I just give you, it's a report, very interesting report. I can share the link afterwards on the chat if you want, but it's called Digital Transformation for NGO, and it was made 2 years ago. So of course things have even accelerated since. But they were saying that only 8% of NGOs have a digital transformation strategy defined as such, which is a very low rate for sure. We see that digital transformation is important for the organization in itself, for its strategy, but it's also very interesting because digital